You are listening to Feast Like Odin, the Saturday morning podcast about animation and food. I'm Will.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff.
Oh, yes, we did it. All right. We did our own, we did each doing their intro. It was awesome. It was
Heck yeah.
awesome. Do you want to switch it up and do you ever want to go first? Do you ever want to be I'm Jeff and I'll be like, and I'm Will.
Yeah, I'm not against changing it up. Variety's the spice of life, right?
Quite so, quite so. That By the way, we just recorded our Halloween episode where we went into fennel for some reason,
Yeah.
and I was like, Jeff, what are your thoughts about fennel? And you're like, oh yeah, I got fennel on my spice rack and blah blah blah.
There's some real evocative stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hell just like a single issue of Hellboy, in a bag and board, and it's just the horror of the storyline just slowly reveals itself,
Hmm.
and and he tricked me, by the way. The person I trusted wasn't the person I should have trusted, you
Yep.
know so all of that. uh anyway, his claim to fame with Lobo absolutely is that he gives him three tough like shocks of hair,
Yep.
and they're all sticking out in different directions. um you know Lobo's hairstyle is always crazy, um but with Mike Mignola's Lobo in particular, the way the hair looks, the half shaven, it's like
Yeah.
he's managed his beard at one point, but he hasn't shaved for a while. That's like
It.
the
Yeah.
Lobo
It,
style.
it's one of those. So, like currently looking at the Mike Mignola art for Lobo. It's Lobo has always kind of had this like son of anarchy kind of biker vibe. Uh,
Right.
the Mike Mignola one is legitimately like wastelander, like post-apocalyptic warrior. In just the his general vibe, like he's absolutely strapped to the teeth. He's got the like loose-fitting like leathers that almost look tattered. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he like grinds and grizzles him up, and that's saying something for a character like Lobo, right?
uh,
Like,
yeah. So I mean, we tried to start from the beginning with these stories and at least like give our take on it. If people don't know who Lobo is at all, they're lost, I guess. But we have the clips we're talking about. We'll just throw the links down in the about me, right? And then we found a clip: Superman versus Lobo in the original Superman the animated series, which was one of Jeff's first picks for an animation when we started talking about this. And it looks like there's a souped up brand new Superman Lobo fight for a film called Superman Man of Tomorrow, which is at the top of our watch list. I mean, we watched this minute long clip um, of a
yeah,
Superman Lobo fight from 2020. It, the mood was beyond perfect. Just wow. Um, Superman the animated series. I actually remember I was going to school at the time, like K through 12. I don't know. I can't pinpoint the exact year, but I remember kids in school talking about the Superman and Lobo fight. This guy, because Lobo just shows up in Superman the animated series and just starts really fighting Superman. Um, and we, it's just really funny where you know we were toying with the idea of talking about Superman versus Lobo, and it looks like the hammer is really dropping on the January 6th riots
yeah, yep.
uh, this very day. I actually don't know what's going to happen. Something crazy could be announced in regards to that in like literally minutes. So,
You're right. The entire world could change by tomorrow. Who the hell knows, man?
yeah, yeah, we've mentioned it before. So it is sort of interesting that, Lobo, this wayward assassin character who is confirmed. Like he began as a parody, and
Yep.
now he has his own uh, universe or world or whatever. Um, but yeah, his just sort of his demeanor. I don't think it's even love to hate him. I think it's just straight up love him, and
Yeah.
so and the idea is that he is from another planet and he has a job to do. He's like a bounty hunter or whatever, and if someone gives him the money and says it's Superman,
It's Superman. Yeah,
it's
no,
Superman.
I appreciate that about the clip that we just recently watched. Is like the whole it completely culminates in like somebody's paying me a lot of money for your ass, so you're coming with me. Like it's a
Yeah,
very like nothing personal, and
yeah,
it's entertaining to me that through like fight scenes like that, especially it strikes me in the old like animated series like Batman, Superman.
yeah,
They have this really fun way of telling a story over the course of a fight scene where you think is generally no exposition, but yeah, I really came to like Lobo just over that like 4 or 5
yeah.
minute span of like, oh, there's some interesting aspects of this character, and it's mostly him just taking Superman to the mat.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so this is a total side piece of information here. This is a total deviation, but it could work out for us because we have another podcast, the Lemon Drop Sessions, uh, and our first interview for the Lemon Drop Sessions is coming out soon. It will actually be out by the time this episode airs. But I interviewed the country singer Reva Jean, and uh, so I have to do research on our interviewees or what have you, and so a Reva Jean song, like a really a really slow number by Reva Jean, just came on out of like unbit. I didn't click anything. It just started playing. I've been on
Gotta love
Zoom.
the algorithm.
Yeah, yeah. So literally, like as we were talking about Lobo and his assassinator nature, some Reva Jean like melodies came on in the background. That was kind of crazy,
Some
but
interesting juxtaposition there, yeah.
it is. I mean, because like that is the juxtaposition. It's like Clark is like this Kansas country boy, and literally in the Man of Tomorrow clip we watched, he's like, I'm from Kansas. Like he just
Yes.
yells at Lobo, I'm from Kansas.
I,
You
I
know?
I appreciate that difference in the perspective of kind of opening up again like a galactic kind of scope, because Lobo's there like, are you sure you're from Krypton? Like
Mhm.
he like no holds just drops the name drops the home world of origin, and in true Superman fashion, identifying with like nurture over nature in that regard. I guess he's like, no, I'm from Kansas.
Yeah, right, exactly. Um, uh, so this will probably, I don't know, it's like we're diving deeper and deeper into these worlds, the world of animation, the world of comic books, the world of uh, etc. So obviously I have comic book interests. I have that, you know, comic book style like affection for these characters, and so it
Yep.
was interesting for me to suddenly connect with Lobo after all this time, right? And so I started, like messing around, what would Lobo do? What would Lobo say? What's he like? Like I started like writing a few things about the character. And and I had this idea. I thought it would be very funny if Lobo's family life was actually perfectly fine, and
Yeah.
he's just like an assassinator, aggressor, and stuff like that. And so I did some research just before we started this podcast, and Lobo's home planet Zarnia was apparently a peaceful planet. So without really knowing that much about the character, I kind of went in the same direction that the creators did ultimately, or because people add to any character's mythos over time.
Right.
So I don't know exactly when Sarnia was. I guess I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but Czarnia is the spelling for Lobo's home planet. But yeah, it was a peaceful planet. It says said to resemble Krypton, and this is really interesting. So this is dc.fandom.com. They had many social institutions just like Earth, such as daycare, music concerts, and mental asylums.
Talk about running the gambit, right?
That is some flavor, my friend. All right, so I do think for the fans and for ourselves, this will not be our last time talking about Lobo. Um, but we've also got Superman in there. And I am goose egg for a food. Like, unless do you want to do goose eggs? You want to figure you want to look into
I
that?
mean that's not bad at all, actually.
I'm gonna see where you can get yourself a good fried goose egg or something like that. Oh my gosh. All right. You know what? I'm doing it. Oh, no, I'm not. All right, so Jeff, this is up to you. Um, it looks like there was a place called Goose Egg Inn in Wyoming. Um, and it says closed on the Google, so that's a bummer.
That is a pity.
This podcast is set in Connecticut. And by the way, just because the internet says a place is closed really
Yeah,
does not
doesn't
at
always
all. Yeah.
track.
I think
Uh
that might yeah, yeah. In Yeah, now there's an article from September 13th, 2022 for the Goose Egg Inn. So it can't pop like if it's closed, then that's a real deep fake. I don't know.
hmm.
Anyway, let me see.
So there's actually a lot to goose eggs in my little bit of rabbit hole digging there.
Do explain.
So I would almost it almost seems like if you have the opportunity to use goose eggs over chicken eggs, you absolutely should. I mean, should depending on what you're looking for out of your diet, but apparently they are richer, fattier, heavier, and more deeply colored. Um, some people describe them as they just taste eggier, like more like an egg than regular hen eggs.
I feel like
And
I
a
should
lot.
have saw that coming.
So apparently,
The fattier I get, the
the
fattier I
fattier, absolutely, and
yeah.
I guess a lot of the reason for that is that geese are uh, just the way in which they're raised, and they have a much more varied diet as they're like growing and living and vibing. So it tends to add
Oh,
they have a richer and more varied diet than your standard chicken or hen does. So that translates into the eggs that you get from them being having a deeper color and just a more flavorful yolk. Um, so a little bit of digging. I need to get a few more sources before I like
right,
definitively
right.
weigh in on that. But yeah, it seems that that is the real benefit to goose eggs over chicken eggs.
Right on.
I'm gonna have to start trying to mess around with them.
It's interesting that my own search took us all the way over to Wyoming because that was one of my first ideas to maybe attempt some sort of travel show.
Excellent.
I was just like, I don't know, like I think actually had this thought even before the pandemic. I was like, like what about Wyoming, right? And then when I started what I've I very this is a joke, but I refer to Hear About It podcast as the mothership that, has started. It is a joke, but, Hear About It podcast, and then from that, we have Lemon Drop Sessions and Feast Like Odin. Um, One of the first things I thought about was, like, maybe I could, do such and such a thing and do some sort of crowd-funded trip to Wyoming,
Yeah.
um, because and I started actually on my own Instagram page, I started following random places in Wyoming, and I actually thought about just, like, literally just, like, interviewing just totally random places from Wyoming and having, like, 6 episodes that were all Wyoming based, you know?
So not to jump on a bandwagon or anything, but I actually have a connection out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Um,
Oh, yeah.
my cousin manages in a resort there,
Oh, wow.
in a restaurant called the Mangy Moose. I'm more than happy to reach out to her and see get some insights as to like where the happening spots are.
Let's do it, that would be super fun. Yeah. I'm wow, incredible. We started with Superman and Lobo and then
Now we're out in
revived
Wyoming.
it brought up this like old thread. Um Super cool, super cool. And when you talk about moments of or when you think about moments of serendipity captured for all to witness, um Final Fantasy is a great example. Uh,
There's the
so
segue. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's a perfect segue, and I just want to say, like we, if it feels a little light on Superman versus Lobo, it's just because we are, like thousands upon thousands of people have their own thoughts about Superman and Lobo, and much respect. It's like we're not claiming to be the total authority on these characters, but we do want to have this podcast talk about animation, all that.
Oh yeah.
Um, uh, Final Fantasy VIII is known for winning awards for music. They really pushed the soundtrack and the animation, the psychedelic imagery, and storyline play into that very well.